Hi guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video. And we've had the Google Pixel here for roughly around a week, just over. And in that time, I've picked up some of the good points, some of the bad points, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. What's good, what's bad, and where I feel they could technically improve in another device, but also what they've championed. And of course, some of you guys may be watching this still on the fence. Do you go with the Google Pixel 3 XL or do you go with something else? Because at the end of the day, there are lots of great devices out there and it's a very important decision where you place your cash. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. So welcome back to a brand new video. Like I said, today we're looking at the Pixel 3 XL and the 3 to some extent because they're very similar, and we're going to be judging it on my overall usage after about a week. And the reason why I like to do this is simply because a lot of the time, the first videos that come out as soon as a product is released are a bit wishy-washy. Really? People are very hyped, they're very excited by a new product, it's gleaming in their hands and they want to big it up for obvious reasons, but those videos don't necessarily tell you what you need to know. Now on this video, I'm not going to be focusing on specs, etc, but if you do want that sort of information, then please go and watch the unboxing video I did on the phone where I go into more detail on that. Now I'm of course going to be looking at the Pixel 3 XL today. The only three real differences are the larger display, the larger battery, and the Quad HD screen as opposed to the Full HD screen on the 3. So for that reason, we'll just refer to the 3 XL. But if you're looking at the 3, you can take everything else pretty much to be the same. Right, so the first thing you need to know about the Google Pixel 3 and 3 XL, if you don't know already, is that the hardware and the software is both made by Google. Therefore, it's technically the best Android alternative to, say, an iPhone, which again, the hardware and software is made by one company. So in terms of that user interface experience, everything should, and I say should for a reason because we'll get to that, should be the most fluid and feel the most user-friendly. And overall, it does a very good job at this. You know, I've luckily had the chance to use loads of different devices in recent times, and I can honestly say that in terms of being very fluid, easy to use, enjoyable to use, the Pixel 3 and 3 XL are really going to be right up there. You know, it runs stock Android, there is no heavy skin that you sometimes get on other Android devices. It kind of feels, on the whole, as it's intended. And again, I say on the whole. You know, the combination of the Snapdragon 845, the stock Android, the 4GB of RAM, I'm surprised, and I said this in the unboxing, I'm surprised it didn't go with 6GB on the XL version, the larger version. A lot of companies do that. Do you necessarily need 6, 8, and potentially 10 on a very new device coming very soon? Do you need that on a smartphone? Some would argue no, it's a bit of overkill, but equally I'd need to use this over 3 months, 6 months in order to tell you whether I do feel a big difference between this and those devices that do have the larger RAM. So while we're on that, here's my first minor gripe. We'll talk design first because it kind of runs into it very well. Now, in terms of design, I'm very mixed with Google on this one because I think personally the back of the phone looks absolutely delightful. I think it looks very nice. I do like the two-tone effect, the now frosted glass on the bottom area and the gloss at the top. I think that looks really, really smart. I know some people have been having problems with scratching on the frosted area. It generally happens more on the black version than the white and the not pink, so if you are conscious of that, then opt for those two colours. Of course, you can use a skin or a case as well, but on the whole, I've not experienced any problems with that. And I think, as you can see here, it looks very, very smart. However, and you know where we're going with this, we turn it around and it's one of the most interesting design choices of 2018. We've got the large notch there, and underneath we have a pretty large chin as well. Certainly, when you think of the resources Google have, I'm really surprised this design got past due to the reception from a lot of consumers about design choices from other Android manufacturers this year. Yes, there is a reason for the notch, and yes, there is a reason for the chin. We have dual front-firing speakers, and we now have a dual camera lens on the front, which includes a wide angle, which is a great addition. I love wide angle lenses. Do I feel the trade-off, though, is necessary to have that notch like that? Unfortunately, no, I don't. I think that it could have been done better, but I don't want to dwell on it too much because I feel it's kind of been over-talked. My main real gripe comes in the form, and again it surprises me with Google, in the form of software, because you'd expect, with it being stock Android, you know, the creators of Android, you'd expect it to work the best with the hardware. I feel there's a few tweaks that they need to adjust with that software using the hardware, because as an example, if you wanted to disable that notch, you'd have the bar across the top and the icons jump underneath it. Now there are loads of other Android smartphones that you can do this and the icons stay up there, and therefore you still make use of that screen real estate, which is why the kind of notch is there in the first place. If you're blacking it out and everything jumps down, it's kind of a bit pointless. You may as well just have a large bezel. Now there are apps available on the Google Play Store where you can actually do this and blacken out the top and the sort of icons still stay up there. So there are ways of getting around it, but again, I feel it should be readily made available by Google. But also it's the symmetry of everything. So when you're viewing media, for example, if you don't have the hide the notch option on, which is difficult to get to as well, hidden away in developer options, I think that should be made more readily available for the general consumer that might not know where it is. It definitely looks odd. You've got, like I said, a large chin, and then you've got the notch. When you pinch to zoom, it just looks really odd viewing media on that setup, but equally, it's still not symmetrical. And I can't get my head around this. And that for me is quite a big thing, which it would be a big thing I would imagine for a lot of people. You know, even some apps that are actually created by Google, like the YouTube Creator app, for example, parts of that actually get cut off by the notch. It's just really, really surprising that they've allowed this to happen. I just on the whole feel there just needs to be a bit better app optimization for that notch. And again, I just felt that notch would function a little bit better due to the fact that the hardware and software was made by Google. So yeah, something that they can definitely improve on. Now, before we continue and you think this is just a complete bashing of the Google Pixel 3 and 3 XL, it's not at all. I've got some great things to say about the phone as well. I'm just getting a few sort of things off my chest first. Also, with the Snapdragon 845, it is pretty much the best SoC currently on the market, but the problem Google have, and it happens every year, is they kind of release their phones right at the end of the cycle almost. So the 845 has been out since sort of February, March time, so it already feels about 6 months old, really. And also you've got to remember that you've now got 7nm chips available from Huawei and Apple, for example, and we're well aware that the next set of Snapdragon SoCs and other companies' setups will be out early next year. So we've only got sort of 4 months-ish, and we'll already be looking at an update for this SoC. So again, another potential downside to the Pixel because it is released so late. I think their sales would actually improve if they were to release their phones earlier, say sort of May, June time, but that's just me.
Here are some results from the web.
Well, speak of that, there's my next point. Google Voice Assistant with a squeeze of the phone, which I actually didn't think I would like. I thought it would be too much of a gimmick for me, but I do use that quite a lot. So yeah, good job on that, Google. And of course you can change the sensitivity of the squeeze. So if you want it light like I've got, hence the reason why it went off a bit too easily, you can do that, or you can make it so you have to squeeze it a lot harder for it to operate. It's good that you have an option of how sensitive you want it. Obviously this is running Android 9 Pie, which is the latest Android software available. There are a couple of other devices which have released or are very close to releasing Android 9 on their devices, but yeah, you certainly get the most up-to-date software available if you buy a Google Pixel. So we've got the first real official implementation of gestures on stock Android. While it feels fairly fluid, I do quite like it. I prefer using it to navigation buttons, no questions asked. There are a couple of things that I would personally tweak, like for the fact that when you swipe up to go to your recent apps, that's very easy, very quick to do. But if you want to go to your app drawer, for example, it just feels a little bit more clunky than it needs to be. So you would swipe up and kind of keep swiping to get to your app drawer, and that bit where it goes from thinking you want to go to your recent apps to going to your app drawer, there's a little delay and just that slight glitchy feeling to it. And I'm massively nitpicking, don't get me wrong, but I'm just giving you all the information that I feel. Also, two more things that I would technically improve with the software is when you swipe up to go to your recent apps, you've got the back button on the left. And I think if you're using gestures, you should just pretty much stay with gestures and not have that designated on-screen button. But also, I know in stock Android it's always been on the left and you'd have your recent apps button on the right, but now we don't have a recent apps button. I honestly feel that they should move the back button now to the right-hand side because it's easier to get to for a right-handed person. But I think, and don't quote me on this, the majority of humans are right-handed. So I kind of feel they should go with the majority on this. It's just a bit more of a stretch to go across to your back button than it kind of needs to be when it could just be on the right. Again, nitpicking. Forgive me, Google. And finally, along those lines, I also think that the clear all button should be on the right as well. So as soon as you go into your recent apps, there should be a clear all button on the right hand side. You shouldn't have to scroll all the way through all of the apps to get to the clear all button on the left hand side. To me, that seems a bit obvious, but there may be a reason for that. If there is, and you know it, let me know below. The rest of it, on the whole, software-wise, I actually really like Android Pie. And on the whole, it's a very, very fluid experience. And the best sort of experience for Android is, of course, generally as you would expect on the Pixel. Now, a few other bits of software which add another string to the Pixel bow are, of course, Google Lens, which identifies pretty much every object that your camera sort of glances across. Call screening, where you can actually get a Google Assistant to kind of accept calls for you and gauge what the person on the other end wants to kind of nullify spam calls, for example. There's also Now Playing. When you walk into a room, it will kind of keep its ear out for background music that's playing, and it will let you know what it is without you actually having to use a third-party app to find that out, and it will keep a running history of those specific songs as well, which again is really helpful. Now we're going to jump onto battery, and it's a fair battery. It's 3,430 mAh, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly after my unboxing video, and I'll pretty much get through the day without really needing to charge. Is it the best battery available? No. I have used phones quite recently that have better battery life. If one of the main factors on your decision making for a new phone is battery, I personally wouldn't go with the Pixel 3 XL, and in fact the Pixel 3, even though it's a smaller screen and not Quad HD, that's an even smaller battery at 2,915 mAh, again if my memory serves me correctly, and for that reason it's certainly not a big selling point of the Pixel. The battery life is average. Just a little drink. Thirsty work. Now, one of the big selling points for the Google Pixel 3 and 3 XL is, of course, as you expected, the camera. Now, I personally am using this as my daily driver kind of because of that reason. The camera is incredible. Now, cameras on a smartphone are a very highly contested area, and it will come down to personal preference, but I am absolutely loving using the Pixel for its camera, and mainly because I get great photos and it's really, really easy to use. The app's great, it's not cluttered. You can snap photos instantly, there's no lag, you don't get any real blur issues that you will get on some other smartphones, some other premium top-end smartphones as well. Is the camera light years ahead of last year? No, but it certainly is better. The colors are very accurate, they're incredibly sharp, probably some of the sharpest pictures you will get on a smartphone today. Some would say that the photos come out a little bit over-processed, and again, that will come down to personal preference. I think on the whole, they do an amazing job. They sometimes miss edge detection, which again is understandable considering it is just using the one camera. Room for improvement in this area, absolutely. Will it make a massive difference to the average consumer? Not at all. I think the average consumer would think this is an incredible, incredible camera. And it will certainly again be right up there for the running for top dog camera in a smartphone of this calendar year. Now, I did do a camera comparison between the Pixel 3 XL, the iPhone XS Max, the Samsung Note 9 and the OnePlus 6. If you want to go and see that, I will leave it listed in the video description below, and a little card will pop up now on the screen. I'll hopefully also be comparing it to the brand new released Huawei Mate 20 Pro, for example, and a few others. Now, in that comparison, you will have seen some low light performance shots taken on the Pixel 3 XL, and again compared to those other three smartphones, and the low light performance on the whole is actually pretty impressive. I'm waiting on my full evaluation of low light performance on the Pixel 3 XL until after they release what's known as Night Sight, which is apparently meant to really, really enhance low light performance, and hopefully that's coming very soon. That of course will run alongside Top Shot, which is another brand new thing that they released this year, where you'll take one photo and it can offer a few different options. For example, if it was a windy day and hair blew in their face, you would get a better shot that they would recommend. Now we're going to jump onto the front-facing camera, and the Pixel 3 and 3 XL will take some of the best selfies available. Again, some will say that certain shots look a little bit over-processed, like this one, for example, where I mentioned in my other video I look like a superhero. Not sure about that actually on second viewing, but certainly the processing on this photo looks quite unnatural. Great, but quite unnatural. But yeah, if you love a selfie, again, this will probably be, in my opinion, one of the best phones to get. Also, we have the wide-angle lens on the front as well, and although I don't take that many selfies or group selfies or groupies as they refer to them as, I think it's a great option to have. It means that you don't have to hold your phone really high up in the air, and you can still fit absolutely everyone in and some of the background as well. So yeah, another great feature and another potential positive of that notch. Video is also good, but it's not groundbreaking. I'm also a bit disappointed that it doesn't run 4K at 60, for example, just a maximum of 4K at 30, which is still great for most people, but as other flagships now run 4K at 60, I kind of feel they needed to stay up with that. You also have motion tracking on the Pixel 3 and 3 XL as well. So this is great for vloggers, for example. You can literally just tap on the face on the screen and it will then track the movement of that person wherever they go in the shot. They will stay in focus. Really, really handy tool. And we have what's known as Playground. There are a few more characters and they may add to this over time. Certainly a nice addition to play around with. Iron Man here, he's loving it. Say hi. Come on, mate. He's getting a bit aggressive. I'm gonna have to go because he looks like he's gonna. He looks pretty scary, to be honest. He's following me. I can't believe it. He's following. Now the speakers give off great sound quality, probably one of the best available, maybe behind the Razer 2. I will just play a little example for you now so you can get an idea firsthand. Now obviously this is me playing it into a microphone, so you're not going to get the exact accurate quality, but you'll get a rough idea. Now another thing I really love about the Pixel, once you get past the notch and the chin, the display itself. The Quad HD display made by Samsung, who make pretty much the best screens on the market, is incredible. In my opinion, it's kind of a bit of a toss of a coin between some of those top brands at this moment in time that are all using Samsung screens. My only potential one criticism of the display is the brightness in bright sunshine. It's not dark, it's not dull, it's just there are other phones that have brighter displays. Also, one thing I really do like about the Pixel 3 XL is the comfort. It's great in the hand, feels very premium. The fingerprint sensor is probably one of the most satisfying sensors I've ever used. And by that I mean there's a little bit of feedback you get when you actually touch the sensor and it just feels amazing. I'm not sure why I'm getting so excited about a fingerprint sensor, but when you're around these sort of devices all day, it's the little details that count. You probably all think I'm really weird now. And you'd be right. Very weird. The actual phone is very well put together, the build quality is great, the aluminium strip around the outside, the glass back and the buttons all together make a very, very nice tight unit. The buttons are very clicky as well and they feel very sturdy. I don't think I'm going to have any problems with these losing that wonderful clicky feeling. In terms of storage, some people will think it's a shame that they didn't include expandable storage with a micro SD card slot. They do offer unlimited cloud storage, however, which I think is personally a very good thing. Would I prefer it to be right on hand there on the phone, on the actual inbuilt storage or on an SD card? Possibly, but it's certainly great to have a form of unlimited storage. So big respect to Google for allowing that to happen. Honestly, overall, I'm really, really torn between this device because I personally think if this had a better design on the front, it would be one of the most talked about products right now. There's so much good about this phone that unfortunately is going to be left by the wayside due to the design choices on that front. And yes, some people will say, well, just go out and buy the Pixel 3 and don't get the one with the notch. But that's still got, by today's standards, pretty huge bezels. So for that reason, unfortunately for Google, I don't feel that the sales are going to reflect how good this phone is. It kind of felt that as soon as it was revealed and everyone saw that the leaks were true, there was kind of just a bit of a... that's a shame. And I kind of have to agree with that sentiment because it is my daily driver at the moment. I love using it, but it just upsets me that it's ugly on the front. Putting my thoughts aside for a second, let's get back to you guys and let me know what you think in the section below, because if you can get over the design, or in fact you like the design, which some people will, then if the price is right for you, I can 100% give the Google Pixel 3 XL my stamp of approval. And talking about price, although it's not cheap, it's not a budget phone, it is nice to see Google releasing their products sub 1,000, because I understand why smartphones are expensive. They do literally everything now, but I think if most can do it sub 1,000, I personally think they all should. So that is my video on the truth of the Google Pixel 3 XL. What do you think in the comment section below? Let me know your opinions on this phone, all the stuff we've talked about today. I want to know your honest opinions of this device as well. As always, like and share if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful. Subscribe and hit that notification bell if you're new to the channel and want to be notified every time I post a video on anything tech, pretty much daily content on YouTube. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. TP, peace out.